Hello everyone and welcome to the final analysis video of the 2021 Tour de France here on the Cycling Dane. Of course, this was stage 21, the finish on Champs-Élysées. As always, I'm delighted to be joined by Mr. Kruger himself, Ewan. And Ewan, unfortunately, we didn't get the fairy tale ending of having Mark Cavendish finish and break the Eddy Merckx record in the green jersey. And instead, we got Wout Van Aert in the Belgian national kit take the win. And we spoke about this before. Do you think there was any impact changing the finish of the finishing line, moving a bit up, further up the Champs-Élysées?
Well, the Champs-Élysées finish was slightly different this year, a couple of 100 meters above the normal finish up the Champs-Élysées towards the Arc de Triomphe. But this finish did make a slight difference. We saw the Quickstep from roughly 2.5 kilometers to go lose their grip completely on the sprinting affairs. Cofidis surged, DSM and Intermarché just pushed on as well. And at that point, you realize that the Quickstep were swamped by the peloton almost. And Barrini, Merco, so forth, were just within the bunch and within the fight for position instead of being in the very comfortable position that they're usually in, which is at the front of affairs. However, once we swung into the Place de la Concorde, it looked a lot more comfortable for the Quickstep. But Scott, what happened after then?
Well, we're so used to seeing Mark Cavendish sitting in a really good position for all his 4 victories, well, in Champs-Élysées. But we saw here that they kind of recovered. He was sitting just about on the wheel of Wout Van Aert, and he had Mike Chernyson in front of him, and it looked quite comfortable here. And Ewan, do you think the change of having the finish longer up actually negated the advantage that we've seen in previous years?
I think this helped Cavendish, to be fair, but usually there is an advantage of having the best lead out into that final corner. But this year, I mean, Intermarché were at the front and Alpecin Fenix, of course, second and third wheel. So it didn't really benefit either of them. Jasper Philipsen came second, but he was overdone by Wout van Aert, who had Mike Tennyson to do the leader of his life after the corner. So the extra 100 or 200 meters after the corner allowed Mike Turnison of Jumbo-Visma to just power through and deny everybody else of a proper lead out. And that's why Wout van Aert won. Wout won, yes, he has the power, but Wout won because Mike Turnison gave him the lead out of his life to the finale. Jumbo as well have won here in the past, let's not forget, with Dylan Groenewegen here in 2017. So they know how to finish a job here, and Mike Turnison certainly did that today.
Yeah, well, you were speaking about Mike Jennison's really good lead out. One man that we didn't see, the guy who's kind of been the iconic pairing that we Mikel Merco and Mark Cavendish, wasn't really there. When we were coming into the final 600 meters, Mark Cavendish was on the wheel of Wout Van Aert, and as you said, Mike Turnison did that phenomenal lead out, and it was kind of Jasper Philipsen and Mark Cavendish kind of battling for the wheel of Wout Van Aert with 230 meters to go. Then Jasper Philipsen tries to swing around, can't quite get around Wout Van Aert, and then Mark Cavendish is somewhat boxed in. Do you think Mark Cavendish was boxed in and that kind of was the reason why he lost, or do you think Wout Van Aert was just too powerful here? Because Mark Cavendish looks like he has room at the finish just before he bangs his handlebar. There is definitely a gap, but he isn't able to take it. Or do you think that Jasper Philipsen was basically the rider hindering him from getting around Wout van Aert?
I think Cavendish just went along the barriers, assuming he'd be the fastest man into the sprint, but it didn't work out. He didn't have the space to overcome Wout van Aert. And I think Cavendish has been battling with fatigue over the past couple of days. He was one of the last people to cross the line at Col de Porte and also Luzardi-Den. And then Libourne as well, the kind of Quickstep didn't chase down for some reason. But Mark Cavendish, yeah, not quite the fairy tale ending we would have hoped for, but I think Wout van Aert was just more powerful in the end. The Paris-Champs-Élysées sprint, it is uphill to some extent, cobbles, power-based. Wout van Aert, he's so much more powerful than Cavendish is, especially without a train. Wout van Aert's always going to beat you. And with Jasper Philipsen, I don't think he was the reason Cavendish lost. I think Cavendish lost because he wasn't brave enough to take the inside line to challenge Wout van Aert.
So one of the questions, of course, before moving on to Wout van Aert is the Libourne stage where the Deceuninck Quickstep let a breakaway, well, take the victory. And do you think, in hindsight, this was a mistake from Deceuninck Quickstep and they should have controlled that day more and put their efforts there to try and get that 35th win for Mark Cavendish?
Of course, stage 19 from Orange to Libourne. they put Barberini in the breakaway, but Cavendish obviously didn't have the legs, or maybe they just let it go because they had Barberini in the break. But I find it an interesting decision. I know winning in Le Bon wasn't quite the fairy tale ending of breaking Eddy Merckx's record that we would have hoped for. We would have hoped for Champs-Élysées success, but you just got to take every opportunity as they come. But Cavendish, of course, letting that go. And of course, it looks like he's let the record go. Deceuninck Quickstep could have chased that one down. They had Tim de Klerk, Jules Alaphilippe, and so forth to chase this move down that included so many people who wanted breakaway success from the Tour de France. The first breakaway that went off, by the way, was caught back, but the final breakaway that went all the way to the line. But Cavendish let Le Bon stage go, and I think that was maybe a reckless decision in hindsight, because that finish probably would have suited the Deceuninck Quickstep more than the Champs-Élysées finish today.
And finally, of course, do you think Wout Van Aert is the all-round rider that we have in the peloton right now? We saw him take the time trial victory yesterday on stage 20. We saw him take the Mont Ventoux stage on stage 11. And now here he finishes off by becoming the first Belgian since 2008 to take a stage win and also deny Mark Cavendish's fairy tale story as well.
Yes, Wout Van Aert has become the first Belgian since Gert Steegmans back in 2008, as you mentioned. But this looks like Wout Van Aert is certainly one of the most all-round riders in the peloton. I think this year's Tour de France really perpetuates this. He won a mountain stage at Malocène, which of course crossed Mont Ventoux on 2 occasions. Winning a time trial in Saint-Emilion through the wine region proved that he was definitely one of the best time trialists. And now on Champs-Élysées with a sprint, it really does show that Wout Van Aert can be at the top of his game on each terrain. Whether he can compete in GC in the future, that's to be discussed. You can listen to our discussion on that on our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But nevertheless, Wout Van Aert certainly the most resemblant to Eddy Merckx at the moment.
So, Ewan, do you think he's the favorite for the Olympic medals as well in Tokyo?
People, Ghana. Look out for people. But Wout is up there. I think he'll get a medal. I don't know what color, but it'll be between Wout and people for gold.
Anyways, that's it for our final analysis video here of the Tour de France, the 2021 edition. Of course, make sure to check out our video of how Tadej Pogačar won the 2021 Tour de France. And of course, thank you for watching and have a nice day.